The mining industry plays an important role in the country's economy. Joining us via Zoom is the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines Executive Director, Atty. Ronald Recidoro, to tell us about the industry's environmental and social impact. Magandang umaga po. Thank you very much for joining us, Attorney.
Good morning, Paolo, and good morning to everybody.
Attorney, let's start off first with the mining industry's contribution to our economy, especially when you take a look at the GDP, revenues from taxes and employment. Just what is the impact of the mining industry in the Philippines?
Well, in terms of its contribution to national GDP, the large-scale mining industry contributes significantly little. No, it's at less than 1%. But if you look at mining's contribution in the regions where mining happens, where mining companies operate, their impact to regional GDP is as high as 27% in Mimaropa and 15% in Caraga. So it's really a matter of how you look at it. But other than that, the impact of mining on communities is also significant because mining companies expend millions of pesos on community development.
Well, sir, that actually brings me to my next question, because the association is composed of some of the biggest mining, quarrying, and mineral processing companies here in the Philippines. Now, of course, when we talk about those groups, those organizations, those companies, we also have to talk about sustainable development, not just with the country's minerals, but as well as communities involved. Just how does your association help ensure that or help monitor that?
Well, the work of the chamber really is to promote responsible mining. So what we've been doing in the last 2 decades has been to promote exactly that by encouraging our members to upgrade their capacities and capabilities in terms of doing mining right, by making protection of the environment a premium, and also ensuring that the communities that host mining activities are cared for and don't just survive mining, but are actually thriving communities.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of work in those areas.
Are there any standards, basic standards that you do set out for all of these companies, sir?
Well, right now, the mining industry implements or follows several global standards. Number one of which would probably be the ISO 14001 on environmental management. Then there's also the sustainability reporting mandated by the PSE. And then we also do transparency reporting. This is the mining companies reporting what they paid to government through the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. And then lastly, we are implementing what we call the Towards Sustainable Mining Initiative, where our member mining companies report on their performance on several key metrics such as biodiversity conservation, environmental protection, water quality management, and we report our performance to the public. So those are the key standards and metrics that we observe right now.
Well, there is a report from Watchdog Global Witness that mining does lead to displacement of indigenous peoples, deforestations, and landslides. Of course, there's a lot of criticism leveled to that from not just the international organizations, but of course, there are a few local ones as well. When you hear criticism about this, and when you hear criticism about some of the works happening right now from certain mining companies, what is your take on that from your association?
Well, we have to be careful when we hear about accusations like this against large-scale metallic mining. No? For our members, and I speak for our members only, you can be assured that we are responsible miners and that the work we do is always with an eye towards protecting the environment and the communities. So when it comes to the allegation that we are displacing indigenous peoples, that is simply not true. Because all mining companies that operate within ancestral lands have to secure the consent and cooperation of indigenous peoples. If they don't get that consent, they don't get to operate. And there have been many projects that have not gone forward precisely because they were not able to get the consent of the indigenous peoples. But those projects that have gotten indigenous people's consent, their IP partners are thriving, no? Primarily because of the royalties that these indigenous peoples receive. Now, on the matter of deforestation, that is again simply not true. Because the mining industry in the last 20 years have planted over 65 million trees in over 48,000 hectares. So that's a lot. And I would dare say that perhaps the mining industry is the second largest reforester in this country after the forestry sector. And our advantage is the trees that mining companies plant, we will never cut again. Unlike the forestry sector, where they plant, eventually they will cut these trees again. So 65 million trees is a lot.
Well,
And then on the
sorry, go ahead.
allegation on landslides, again, that's not true. Mining companies already identify what are the geohazard areas and avoid them. Yung napapakinggan natin ng mga balita ng communities being affected by landslide, those areas have already been declared as off limits by the MGB. It's just that the communities choose to still live in those areas. Wala na tayong magagawa doon. It's really up to government now to enforce their regulations. But the mining industry itself does not operate in geohazard areas. Or at the least, we do a lot to mitigate the risk of landslides in our areas by planting a lot of trees and doing a lot of erosion control and slope stabilization activities.
Understood, sir. You also mentioned a while ago that it's important to work with the indigenous peoples, the communities involved. Are there any specific programs from your organization with regard to community development? Because that is something that you've mentioned over and over again a while ago that you are proud of.
Yes, well, the mining industry is unique in the Philippines in the sense that we are perhaps the only country that mandates mining companies to spend a minimum of at least 1.5% of their annual operating budget for community development programs. So in the last 20 years, that comes up to about 1 billion pesos a year spent on just 43 communities. So that's a lot of money. So in this program, we ask the communities to identify what developmental projects or programs they would like the company to fund. So I think you're showing on screen right now the many programs that we're funding. So we're capacitating our communities to become entrepreneurs. We're teaching them new skills in terms of operating equipment, just learning new skills. We're sending thousands of kids to school, not just elementary or high school, even college. So we've graduated thousands of kids. And apart from that, we also do a lot of infrastructure. The biggest budget for SDMP is in infrastructure. So we're building a lot of roads. We're building a lot of community centers. We're building a lot of health and sports facilities as requested by the community. So you will see that if you really just looked at it, the host communities that are hosting mining operations, many of them are already first-class municipalities, largely because of mining na rin.
Well, sir, I wish we had more time to talk to you because we still have a laundry list of questions and topics to discuss. But we thank you so much for your time this morning. Hopefully, we get to talk to you again soon.
Hi. Thank you, Paolo.
Well, that is the Executive Director, Attorney Ronald Recidoro of the Chamber of Mines of the Philippines. Thank you very much once again.